Hi everybody, welcome to episode 36 of Satellite 664. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kaz Tagyan, and as always I'm joined by my friends around the globe. Good day to Mr. Paul Lindop in Berkshire, UK.
Good day everybody.
Rasmus Stansberg in the wonderful fairy tale city of Copenhagen, Denmark. And from... we're talking to a real Celt here, a real Celt. As Bruce said...
You did say Celt, didn't you?
He did say Celt, yeah. Mr. Rory McGugan from Cork in Ireland. Hi, gentlemen, how are you?
All good, thank you.
Good. Well, this is a continuation of the last episode because we did that, I think, just before the tour. We didn't know what the setlist was going to be. We didn't know what the stage show was going to be. A lot of it was speculative. And now we're 33 shows into the tour. Effectively, the tour's effectively over. I mean, there's 4 gigs left. Well, there's 4 gigs left.
Sure, it's not over.
Okay. It's a hiatus. It's a hiatus in the tour. We've had 33 out of 37 shows done, and we thought it's a good time to sit down and reflect. So on what we've all experienced. We've been to shows together. We've caught up with each other, and it was a pretty good time had by all. Now,
should we also state quickly before we go on that this podcast is going to contain set list spoilers in case anybody doesn't want to know.
Yes. Well, there's a
Otherwise,
lot.
We've had some people moaning on the forum about stuff like this. So
well, yes, well, there are a huge amount of tickets available for the 3 Canada shows on Power Trips. So for our Canadian US friends who are going to those shows, you may want to watch this after 2nd of October. But thanks for the support. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm usually very keen to launch into these shows, and I often forget about etiquette like spoiler alert. So,
and for the people who haven't bought a ticket for Power Trip or for Canada yet, go and buy one. You're missing out if you don't.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that a bit later. Now, Raz, after 15 long years, you and I were reunited in the flesh in your town, and we met your wonderful family, and you were very hospitable to us. So I last saw you in 2008, and then I got on one of these and was in your house, and we filmed a little nice chat, which we'll show here. Well, Raz, here it is. First time in 15 years I'm actually seeing you in the flesh. Last time we caught up was Melbourne 2008 in my hometown, and now 22,000 kilometres later I'm in your hometown, in your home in the lovely Copenhagen.
Yep.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're so welcome.
Good. So we're just going to do a quick report from the road. Raz, you were at the very first show in Ljubljana.
Yep.
On the 28th of May. Tell me your reflections on the first show of what is a highly anticipated tour.
Yeah, what to say? Well, as hopefully many of you already have seen on different sites on the internet, it was a very special show for a lot of people. A lot of old fans also who have never seen Somewhere in Time tour. So we get to see some old, new tracks, and from start when we hear this theme from Blade Runner, you could see how much it meant for the fans to get this tour, because grown men were crying all over the venue, and we were like, wow, and everybody was looking at their arms because everybody got goosebumps, and it was so special. And of course we got, after many years of wishing, we got Alexander the Great.
That's right.
Played live.
Interesting you say that a lot of people were crying. I've seen the 2 shows in Prague and the 2 shows in Finland in Tampere, and I saw the same thing. And I guess what it is, in my opinion, is the Summer in Time era is such a much loved era for a lot of fans, and you've got guys like you and I who were fans back then, but unfortunately we didn't get the Summer on Tour in our countries.
Yep.
So for us it's a chance to see it. But I've also spoken to people who saw the shows in 1986 and 87, and they're emotional for different reasons, because it's taking them back 36, 37 years to that era again, and it's really reconnected them with their past. So it's kind of like a whole mixture of reasons why people are getting emotional.
It's like we talked about, it's becoming full circle. Like we had the 88 remake tour, we had the early days tour when we got like a mix of the old tours, but there was something missing, and that was the Somewhere in Time tour, and now we're getting it. And it's not, it doesn't mean that it's the end of Maiden in any way, but it was like this piece of the puzzle was really missing.
Absolutely. Now look, it's going to be an amazing tour, and
it already is.
It already is. I must admit, the best set list I've seen in a long time, the best show I've seen in a long time. I just can't get enough of the shows, to be honest. So
and you can see the boys are getting older, but they don't do that on stage. They are still Iron Maiden. They're still wild and crazy, running around. So yeah.
No, the intensity hasn't dropped. I mean, we saw them. You and I were lucky enough to see them 30 plus years ago, and the intensity hasn't dropped.
No.
Yeah, maybe they're a little bit slower in some parts, but no, it's.
But it's part of the charm of also still can see your band live after so many years, so many gigs, and still get this thrill of
exactly.
Of it all, yeah.
Now, Raz, it's a privilege being here. I thought we'd do something really fun and cool.
Yeah.
Now, you have the promo posters to every single Danish show. Almost. So I'm going to get you to maybe take us through a couple of these, and because as a poster collector, I love posters because it tells a story, and a lot of these have got stories.
Yeah.
Big stories. So do you want to take us through? Maybe we'll do something fun. Maybe in chronological order, we'll go through them. So what have we got here? World Slavery 84, 85.
Yeah.
Tell us something about what happened in Copenhagen in 1984.
Well, sadly, I was too young to attend the show, so I was not there. And
you were 12.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't old enough, but my parents didn't think I was old enough. So
tell us why.
So I didn't go to this gig, and we talked about why should that be a problem? A 12-year-old going to a Iron Maiden gig, what could be the problem? After the show in Copenhagen, there was actually a riot outside the venue at the train station, where the police were beating up Iron Maiden fans who were destroying the train station, and it made the news. Of course, Iron Maiden made the news with their gig, but also the after show they had outside the venue, where the fans were smashing up a lot of things. So
it really surprises me though. The Danish people Copenhagen's such a conservative place. The Danish people are very reserved, they're well-mannered people. How does that actually happen? Particularly back in those days.
The issue was that a lot of buses didn't want to come in and pick up the fans after the gigs, and they of course wanted to go home. But there has been a few fans who are throwing bottles at the buses, so the bus driver said, we're not going in. So then that's just started even more angry young people, and it became a small riot. Yeah.
Angry young people who are now in probably their mid to late 50s.
Not the finest moment for Denmark, but well, they get to see Iron Maiden, so yeah.
All right. 6 years later, 1990.
Yeah.
So after the Italia 90 World Cup. So what?
I was there. I was actually a stupid kid sitting in the cold outside the venue to be first in. So I was sitting there with my friend. We made this big banner that we could use as a jacket because it was freezing cold outside the venue. So we were sitting there, and we could see the load-in, and all the roadies came, and they actually tried to fit in the Big Eddie head from that tour. Only the head from the Big Eddie, but it couldn't come into the doors. So they had to cancel it. So it didn't. The Big Eddie was not on stage in Copenhagen. It was only Anthrax who was warming up. They got their stage show with this arm as a clock thing going around. That worked. It was a little bit smaller than the Eddie. So
dare I ask, how did you manage to see the Big Eddie in 1990?
Well, later there was some good concert bus companies who did trips down in Germany. So me and my friend, we jumped the bus and we made it out of Denmark to see Iron Maiden for the first time. So that was cool.
Beautiful. So your first gig outside of Denmark was in Germany?
In 1990, yeah.
In 1990.
Yeah.
5 years later, 1995. So Bruce is gone, Adrian's gone. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't count.
That's okay. I will help you.
2 years later, the Fear of the Dark tour, in my opinion, one of the best set lists I've ever seen, I've ever heard. It was great. 1992, there's a great story behind this show in Copenhagen, Tom.
It's crazy to think that this was the era where Bruce is about to leave the band, because he was actually really on fire at those gigs.
He really was.
When I think back, I didn't see a guy that is about to leave the band that don't want to be in the band, because there were some really good gigs.
Correct.
So, but we made it out to Valbyhallen. It's a really shitty venue in Copenhagen. Bad sound, but nothing can go wrong when Iron Maiden is playing. So before we go out there, I was thinking, hey, it could be cool to make this little banner. So I took a bed linen and a marker and made a quick drawing of the Killer's Eddie head and wrote Valbyhallen and the date, and we are up at the barrier and here comes Bruce, and I throw it and hits him in the face with it, and he looks at it and shows it out to the people, and then he punched at me and threw it right back to me. So I still have it in my collection, my old...
And for years and years and years, there was no images or footage of it, but now we have...
I didn't think of it until actually a couple of months ago. I'm sitting on YouTube, and suddenly there's some video footage from the Danish gig. So I'm sitting looking at it, and suddenly I see Bruce with this banner, and I'm like, that's my banner! So now I have a small video clip of it, and that's
amazing.
Nice little souvenir, yeah.
What a great souvenir from a great tour. Well, 3 years later, Bruce is gone already. Well, Adrian's already gone. Bruce is gone. You know, and I suppose not the band's most revered or classic era, clearly, but a unique one. X Factor. Tell me about X Factor in Copenhagen.
We're actually lucky at this stage where, I mean, it's kind of big still. There's still a big name. People have not discovered that there's a new singer in, so a lot of people travel to and buy tickets to see Iron Maiden, where they later will stop buying tickets because they have a new singer. But we went to the same venue as in 90, and big stage production with the X Factor Eddie getting electrocuted in a chair when Blaze, he will actually run over and have this big handle, and he will actually electrocute Eddie. I was so lucky to get a photo pass for this gig, but they had very strict rules that nobody was allowed to take pictures of Eddie. Nobody. And they were like, if we see anybody taking pictures of Eddie, it's your day as a concert photographer is over. And we're like, okay, that's the rule. And I really wanted a picture of that Eddie. So when the gig is over and the lights turned on and Eddie is still sitting there in the middle of stage, I actually, when we are walking out the venue, take my camera and take one little picture that I still have in my collection of
somewhere.
Eddie that I'm very fond of, but I was very scared that, please don't piss any of the roadies off.
Fantastic. No, that's great. That's great. Thank you for a uniquely Danish presentation.
No problem.
What's happened. So next gig for you?
We're going to Poland to see
Krakow.
2 gigs in Krakow. Yeah, that would be splendid. I'm pleased about that.
Brilliant. Well, that's later this week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Tuesday. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, and I'll be catching up with you in Glasgow anyway.
Yeah.
So. Brilliant, mate. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, my brother.
was good. It was a really good catch up, Raz, and look forward to doing it all again. So
Cool.
now the other thing that I had an opportunity to, after all, I've wanted to do this for 37 years. I went to the Netherlands, and I was fortunate enough to visit Wisseloord Studios in Hilversum in the Netherlands, where Maiden recorded Somewhere in Time. And I didn't really know what to expect. So, for those that don't know, Hilversum is this small little town where all the media personalities live, and the sort of the people in the Dutch entertainment industry all live there. And about 15 minutes drive literally out in the forest, is Wisseloord Studios. It's this dull, grey-looking square building, literally in the middle of a Dutch forest. And when we drove up there, I couldn't believe that that's where the magic of Somewhere in Time was recorded. It was bizarre to say the least. And I've taken some photos here, which obviously we're going to show. So Raz, the little gold reel that the bands do, that's on the wall. That's on the wall in the foyer as you walk in. Could you tell us about what a golden reel is?
Well, I can try. Well, when they do the master tapes, of course, the company who does it for the band, they will give them like it's kind of an award for actually using that system, the Apex. I think it's Apex or Apex. The name is. Yeah, and so the company for the big bands anyway, they will give them this bouquet, and you actually don't see many around. You can see some at Nico's Rock and Roll Ribs. He has displayed some of them there, and I think there's a few pictures from Steve Harris's bar where you can see some, but they're quite rare. I've been lucky to get a single one from the recording in the Bahamas, but you rarely see them, so it's quite lucky that you was lucky enough to find one. And in the studio itself is quite cool, actually.
Yeah, it's as I said, you walk into this really dull square building. I mean, it's a really ugly building as the photos show, and you walk into this foyer, and the whole thing is it's a concrete foyer. The whole thing's concrete. I didn't go into I did go into one of the studios and had a look at the mixing desk, but they weren't actually able to tell me where Somewhere in Time was recorded. So for those that don't know, basically the guitar synths, the guitar tracks and the vocal tracks were all done in the Netherlands at Wisseloord. And since then, they've actually renovated the studio. So the studios that Maiden recorded were not, they've changed. They've renovated them quite a bit, but you still get the vibe. You know, in the foyer, obviously, they had the golden reel out. They've had, just a couple of references to Somewhere in Time album. So it was cool to go and see it, and you can understand why the band decided to live or stay in Amsterdam and commute, because there literally is nothing out there. There's nothing out there. It's a forest or woodlands. This studio in the woodlands, and Hilversum is. I mean, it's a nice, quaint little town, but a bunch of guys in their late 20s, you could tell they would have been a bit bored there. So the ambience of Amsterdam perhaps was a bit more appealing. But it was nice to go and see. The people at Wisseloord were really nice to us, really, really nice. They were very accommodating, very welcoming. They one of the ladies there gave me a tour of the place. I didn't have the courage to ask them if I could buy that golden reel off them, because I think they would have told.
I think someone in Copenhagen's after that as well.
Well, I sent a message to said individual in Copenhagen. I said, I want to make them an offer, but they'll probably tell me to get fucked. And Rasmus's reply was probably, but you can still offer it, make an offer. So, but I chickened out. I actually ended up going home, and I was running out of money anyway. So, So yeah, it was nice. It was a nice experience to see these things. I love checking out these landmarks, and it really, I think, enhances the tour in some ways. The other thing I want to say, um, over the course of the journey at the various shows, I was personally approached by, I'd say, half a dozen people who watch the show, who really enjoy the show, and they made the time to come up and show their support. And to every one of you that came up to me, particularly in the UK, thank you. It was really nice to meet you all. Thank you for your support. This is why we do the show. It's we're fans.
Yeah, I had a couple of people in Leeds say that when we was in one of the pubs before the show. And again, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great feeling because we do this. As I said, it's this show is like a bunch of guys sitting down at the Cart and Horses before the show having a chat about the band, and the idea is to take a global and involve all fans in it, and just to have people come up to you and show appreciation of the show was extremely humbling. So thank you. Now, the tour, the show. What do we all think?
It was okay.
It wasn't bad, yeah.
It was okay. Roll on the next album, you reckon?
Yeah.
Well, myself and Rasmus were there the first night, weren't we? We actually said hello quickly in Ljubljana when nobody knew what was going to happen, and everything unfolded in front of our eyes. And it was pretty exciting. I'm not sure what was the most exciting bit, but I think perhaps when the lights went down and the Blade Runner theme started was probably one of the best moments I've seen on a Maiden show.
Speaking of this Blade Runner issue, sorry, Ras, speaking of the Blade Runner issue, my good friend Plena Jonassen, I was talking to her on the tour, and she suggested that the Blade Runner theme that we heard on this tour was different, or a bit different, a bit of a remix to the 86, 87. Now, I've listened. I mean, Paul, I know you've gone and listened to the bootlegs because we've talking about this privately. I've gone and listened to quite a few bootlegs. I, for the life of me, can't really tell the difference.
I think it's cleaner having another blonde moment. I think. Yeah.
We love you, Plena.
After the barricade she gave me at Leeds, I'm allowed to say that. So just get me on back.
So the consensus is it's the same.
I've listened to, like I said, Paris 86 and Gothenburg, Philadelphia shows. The filmed ones that you can see on YouTube, and I compared it to this one. It doesn't seem any different to me.
No, I
might be a bit enhanced in sound, obviously, because we're 30 odd years later, so we've got better technology. But it's the same track.
Yeah.
I can't see any difference in the track or when the clock comes in ticking or anything. But
no, I had to listen to Oxford 86 and Tokyo Budokan 87. I can't tell any difference. So if somebody knows, drop a comment below.
Yeah.
Drop a comment below on
it's probably like a millisecond difference or something. But there you go. I don't know.
I wanted to say that it was really fun to see. Of course, we have seen many tour starters over the years, but this one, seeing so many grown men cry, that was really amazing at the first gig. Because
which is
I don't know.
Yeah, which is what you and I spoke about in that recording at your house.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people crying at first. Like, is this real? It's really gonna happen now? And it was a really, really awesome tour starter, I must say.
I think so. Yeah. I think because obviously I was following it on social media when they were revealing the set list, and it was like wow. And then when watching it the next day, when someone put it on YouTube, it was like the hairs on your arms were standing on end. It was just that feeling that they've done what we want them to do, kind of thing.
You definitely couldn't blame Maiden for playing it safe on this tour. It was a really adventurous and interesting set list. From start to finish, and everything. It was surprising. Like things like Death of the Celts, I never expected them to play that live. As much as I wanted them to play Hell on Earth live, they left it kind of late, and I said, maybe they won't. But then they surprised us in the encore, so it was nice.
Yeah. I have to say this was, for me personally, the best set list, the best, most interesting set list since probably 2005, since probably the early days tour, because it was late, just like 2005. This was laden with a lot of deep cuts, and intricate songs. I mean, obviously Alexander the Great, Stranger in a Strange Land, Caught Somewhere in Time, virtually all the Senjutsu songs except Writing on the Wall. The way they played Prisoner, I mean, they played it in a higher key. Adrian and Steve's backing vocals were turned up. Bruce sang it with a bit of a groove. I have to be honest. I'm going to confess. A few of the legacy shows, I did watch the clock at times. I thought, no, okay, but this tour, the time just went like this. It went really fast, just from start to finish. I just loved every moment of this show.
Yeah.
So now, now you guys you saw Alexander the Great, the first show. What do we all think of the way that translated to a live setting?
Nothing wrong with it. I thought it was excellent.
It worked really, really well. Because the most shocking thing was actually them playing Fear of the Dark just after, and then the audience going even more crazy than when they played Alexander the Great, that we have been waiting for so many years, and we have been hearing Fear of the Dark on every tour. But still, the Fear of the Dark is a crowd pleaser. So I was just amazed that people was not more into Alexander the Great. But yeah, maybe it's for the hardcore fans. I don't know.
I like that they did a T-shirt for Alexander the Great, but didn't release it until the second show. That was that was clever, because you don't want to walk in before the very first show and get a spoiler when you look up at the merch stand, So.
It was clever, but it was really dumb that they didn't use the total awesome artwork they had on the background. I didn't get why. It's so good looking.
It said you got
it worked really well on the T-shirt.
Oh, you bought it.
Nothing wrong with that shit.
It's one of my favourite songs in the catalogue, if I'm honest. And for me, yes, it's a Steve Harris song, but live, Adrian just carried that song. I mean, he opened the song. He for me, from a guitar point of view, is a driving force from the song, and his solo, to see that solo live, wow. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Just wow.
Nailed it, didn't he?
He carried that song.
Yeah.
Something I noticed on this tour, particularly in that song, on previous tours, Bruce's memory with the vocals isn't always the best. He might insert different lines here and there. I found on this tour he really focused hard on the lyrics. He concentrated on everything. And I particularly noticed that in Alexander the Great. He had every word nailed down. He really put a lot of work into getting that song 100% correct. I noticed that in a few songs, but particularly in Alexander the Great.
Apart from the first song.
Yeah, but we won't worry about that. We'll
Somewhere in Time, first song, and he forgot the first verse, didn't he? Speaking
of Bruce, his voice was so powerful.
So good. Yeah,
so powerful.
A friend of mine came to the second O2 show, and he hasn't seen the band since, I can't remember, probably Maiden England tour. And he actually said to me afterwards, he said his voice sounds better than when I last saw him. He said it's so good.
Yeah, and Caught Somewhere in Time is a difficult song to sing.
Yes, and especially opening as well.
Especially opening, for a 65-year-old opening in a high register. The power behind that song, but behind his vocals, was just outstanding. I actually thought he sounded better than the Legacy Tour and the Book of Souls tour. Much better. Yeah. So and what a track to open with. That was incredible. That was absolutely incredible. What do we think of Hell on Earth?
Great. Brilliant. Love it.
Best song in the set.
Yeah.
Raz, did you go along with all this business? Did you do this?
No, that's not. But hey, it's the same thing with the lighters or the mobile phones that get dark. If people like it, it's fine by me, but
Yeah.
I'm not joining it.
Me and Rory had a discussion about this a few weeks ago, and like Rory said, it's the whole song, the way it's done and delivered is like an opera. You know, everything. So yeah, it's just to me it was probably.
It's like they saved the whole
Good
pyro
best.
budget just for that song.
Yeah, I
Like
love
the whole pyro budget just went.
that they only used the pyros in that song was really great. It worked really well. So it's not just one big Rammstein gig. I like that.
And the guitarist in me again. I mean, I'm very much guitar focused, and even when I go see the band, I'm really only looking. I'm mainly 80% of the time looking at the three guitarists, but Yannick Gers for me. Yannick Gers, just like I said, Adrian owned and carried Alexander the Great. I think Yannick Gers owned and carried Hell on Earth. I actually ran into Yannick on the street in Birmingham, and I told him that. He sort of gave me a bewildered look, but look, I mean, a lot of the melody lines, that's all him. You know, there's parts of the song that we hum, which actually make the song. He plays that. He brings that feel to that song. And I watched him during every performance of that song. He really is the driving force behind that song. I just loved it. I'm so happy they played that live. It's outstanding.
Yeah, Rory's drinking buddy, isn't he?
Yeah, that's. So that's the second time he's given me two awkward looks. One was in 1992 when I told him I'm a Villa fan, and this time when I told him that he drives the song, he owns the songs.
He's probably thought, I'm not that bloke again. Yeah.
From 31 years ago. Oh,
30 years later, I'm not in again.
31
I
years
think if you were doing a best of Maiden since maybe 1990, that song would be on that best of. It'd probably be one of the highlights of that era. For sure. I think I can't think of many. They've had a load of amazing songs in the last 30 or so years, but that has to be up there with the very best with Passchendaele and so on. With When the Wild Wind Blows.
I agree. I agree. I would say Hell on Earth is the modern version of Rime of the Ancient Mariner. It's the same feeling that I got in 1984 when I first heard Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Is exactly the same feeling I got in 2021 when I heard Hell on Earth, and to see it live, I mean, wow. The other thing is the backdrops. Some of the backdrops they were using for this show is some of the best backdrops I have seen in almost their whole touring history. So, and that backdrop they used for Hell on Earth, wow. The Statue of Liberty in the background of a destroyed New York City. I would say those backdrops should be T-shirts.
Or posters or something.
Or posters.
Why waste them?
Yeah.
Oh, you see the guy on
Alex after this call.
You see the guy on Diamond who does those fantasy T-shirt designs, and he actually used a lot of those artworks and showed how T-shirt could look like. And they were really, really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Prisoner backdrop, it was pretty much taken from the Prisoner series, wasn't it? With a chessboard and the unicycle and...
Which is what we got on the UK and Ireland show.
That's right. Yes, that's exactly right. And I don't know. Actually, okay.
But even the backdrop for Death of the Celts, I loved, of course, but at the side of the stage, you had rain falling.
Yeah.
Static sort of backdrop and then sort of an electronic one on either side.
Yeah.
Really cool.
With a lantern.
I thought that was really, I thought that was really cool then using those two side screens, the electronic screens.
The lanterns, because I think Death of the Celt had the lantern with the rain falling down, didn't it? That was fantastic. That was great.
It worked really well with the side screens, also with the whole theme for Future Past. I think you have the old backdrop still and the new thing. We've not seen that before from other bands either, so I think that was really cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. What was I going to say?
And so much going on those screens, the whole gig. So should I look at the screens or should I look at the band? It was like,
wow.
I
had a friend take a screenshot of one of the bits of artwork that came up. I don't know what song it was. And have you ever seen this before? Yeah, it was the Japanese Dance of Death shirt.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I've never seen that. And it was literally, them going through and noticing things that they'd never seen before.
That was
I think
in Wasted Years, wasn't it? That was in Wasted Years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Tons of Herf's artworks was used. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, they had, there was basically the Eddies from every country. I mean, there was the Australian Eddie as well, of course, slaughtering a kangaroo, which was nice. They had the Stranger in a Strange Land, Texas '87. It was just lovely to see all of it.
Yeah,
and
it was really
I guess
good,
in the last episode we were all hoping that they wouldn't play Wasted Years and Heaven Can Wait, but having seen the show, I'm glad they did, because both those songs work so well. You had the recreation of the original 1986-87 gunfight between Bruce and Eddie, but on a much larger scale. And Wasted Years ended the show, and what a way to end it. It was fabulous.
Yeah, I think you're right. It wasn't, I hope they didn't play it. It was, I thought they wouldn't play it. I thought they might go with Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner after Steve's interview late last year, early this year, where he said it deserves to be played. It was sort of, okay. So it was, I thought that they would substitute Wasted Years for that, but I'm glad they played it, like you said, because it was probably the best song to end the show with. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Every night we play this song, it's the best night of our fucking lives.
That's what he said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I think whoever came up with the set list, whoever actually signed off on the set list, has done a brilliant job, because it flowed so well, probably better than anything they've done any set list they've done the last 5 to 10 years. It just flowed so well. One song went into another, and I like the homage to, the Made in England '88 video where they went from Can I Play With Madness straight into Heaven Can Wait. I love that. It just works so well. So
it was very, very good.
And it's amazing what technology and budget can do in 37 years. Because Paul, you saw the gunfight in '86, and this was a much bigger scale, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I don't really remember much from the '86 show on the gunfight. I just remember them doing it. Yeah, but obviously it was a lot better this time. Obviously, because we're 30 odd years and technology and everything down the line where it can be done better. Not saying that the first one was rubbish, but I thought everything about the whole set that they did this time, was excellent.
Do we think that they're going to rectify past mistakes and release a live DVD of this tour? Because obviously 1986 you get a DVD or release.
I would hope so, but there's been that thing, as Steve said, DVDs haven't got this, and don't sell, don't do this. But I think the appeal is there. If the right people were told and read comments on social media and the forum and stuff like that, they'll see that the demand is there.
I'd like to see the data on this assertion that DVDs don't sell. Why do you say that? I mean, you put out a really good video of this show with a good representation of all the backdrops, and I'm not talking about some rubbish like really fast edits like they did on NVivo. I mean, that gives me headaches, but you do a really nice, put out nice footage of this show, and you market it to this fan base, it will sell.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see what the selling figures were for Nights of the Dead, wouldn't it? The CDs and the vinyl. To see it against, if everybody's buying a CD and a vinyl, you would have thought that everybody would buy the live show DVD, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So to see those figures.
Packaging as well. It's not just the actual content, it's how you package it and make it look attractive.
Exactly.
DVDs are nice objects, I think, because you can have a booklet with them, or they can, open. There's something inside, or you can put some patches with them or something. I think people would buy the DVD even if they weren't planning to watch the DVD. They're nice packages to collect, I think.
I think personally, I think they will. I think they will do a live release, but what physical format, I don't know. Obviously,
plenty
you'll
of
get CD, won't you?
Plenty of time. we are not even over part 1 of the tour, and we have no idea how long the tour will go on, maybe 2 or 3 years. So they have plenty of time to record some really good stuff. And lucky for us, because we know Steve is very picky when it comes to what he wants to release. So yeah, let's see what it all ends up with. I'm sure that it will come out.
Well, the shows that I went to, I didn't see any extra trucks or recording equipment or any extra cameras. So unless you want to prove me wrong.
Maybe they can record it in Australia next year.
Sorry?
Maybe they can record it in Australia next year.
They are welcome.
Exactly.
They are welcome. I don't think they will come, but I'm sure if...
But let's say
one of these
they
can
want
bring
a
them
big
over.
crowd, so they go to South America, so they want to record it there where they have an insanely big crowd.
Yeah.
I think South America's, with it, look, no disrespect to our South American brothers and sisters, I think they've had a good shot at it. They've had Rio 2001, they've had En Vivo. Record something else. Record something give us something from Europe. Record.
And this is an indoor show. You need to see this show indoors, I think.
Exactly right. I agree 100%. Put out a DVD from one of the European shows. The European shows were great. They were really well received. So yeah. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we all found out, and none of us knew really, that Nico McBrain had some health issues in January of this year, of all times, and he had a mini stroke. They call it a mini stroke. I mean, the technical name is a transient ischemic attack. It's a TIA. It's like a 24-hour stroke. It comes on, it goes away, and there usually isn't any sort of significant residual problems. But honestly, I think we were all in shock when we heard about it a couple of weeks ago, because the shows that we all saw, you would not know.
And Kaz, you're a doctor, so from your professional perspective, how impressive is it that he was able to do the tour?
Incredibly, incredible. Well, that's the thing. I when I heard about it, I thought about it more as a medical professional, rather than as a fan. And look, he played really well. There was nothing missing in his timing. So patients with these sort of stroke-like symptoms often may have some residual neurological problems. And look, truth be told, when I did see Nico in Manchester, he actually does have a tremor now in his right hand, which wasn't there previous times that I'd met him. So obviously that's there now. But look, from my perspective, he's recovered. He's virtually recovered completely. And what we didn't know is that from January to May, he had some extensive rehabilitation. Saw his specialist, was on the right medications, and he's going to be fine. He'll be fine. Okay. So yeah,
it was shocking to hear that the guy, he was doing 2-hour sets every other night.
Yeah.
After recovering from that, there were people on social media, they were slagging him off this, that, and the other, weren't they? Before they knew the news, we all thought his drum his drum setup had changed as well, hadn't it? And we all thought that was due to having a dodgy back, didn't we?
And age as well.
And also I think that isn't the start of the Trooper, he doesn't do the full fills, does he, at the start of the Trooper?
Yeah.
Now,
look, he said in man, he told us.
Is that down to that? Is that down to the back? Is it down to this? But
we don't know.
We will never know. But at least the guy has recovered probably 95%, and he's out there doing 2-hour shows every other night. But
Rory,
71
you asked
people
me,
were knocking it earlier on in the tour, weren't they?
Yeah, Rory, you asked me what I think as a professional. Patients who have that condition don't usually go back 5 months later and perform at the level of an Olympic athlete, which is what he's done. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in Manchester, he commented that his drums had gone flat for his back. It makes sense. It does make sense mechanically. I don't know, though, whether he didn't want to disclose any other reasons for it. I don't know.
And we should also say that despite all of this, he is still the best looking member of the band.
For sure. For sure.
Look,
Well, you're walking a tightrope there, Rory, especially with your drinking buddy, because he always tells me he's the best looking whenever I see him. So,
but no,
yeah,
look,
well, my drinking buddy pays me in guitar picks to say these kind of things.
ooh, fantastic. Now, look, you can rest assured Nico is on the right medications to prevent a further stroke. So he'd be on blood thinners, he'd be on, anti-cholesterol drugs. He'd be seeing some of the best specialists, neurologists in Florida. He'd be having extensive physical therapy. He's got good care, and he's going to be fine. And I wrote this on the fan club forum. He's going to be just fine. Having said that, it is a reminder that life is fragile and that these guys are not going to go on forever. That is a really timely reminder.
Says who? Are you a doctor? Oh, okay.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah, I had a discussion last week with somebody. I'm not going to name names. But they actually said to me, you try dragging Steve off that stage and not performing live. See what happens. So I know we've all heard rumours about this, that and the other and whatever, but from what I was told, yeah, they're just going to carry on till they're told not to.
I sincerely hope they do. And look, to be honest, when I became a fan 40 years ago in 1983, if you told me that 40 years later this band would still be around, I mean, it just would have been just joyous to hear something like that. So
can we now address the issue of, we spoke about Nico's health problems, also the issue you see of people online everybody keeps mentioning, I've seen loads of people mention about Dave. Dave doesn't want to be there. Dave wants to be there. Dave wants to be with his family. It's complete rubbish. Where these
Anyone who says that
this?
didn't see this tour.
Exactly. So where these people are getting this information from, I don't know. I'm a person that I know and I bumped into at the O2, who was a old music journalist. They even put it online, and I'm like, where do you get that rubbish from? Right? Someone else I know spent a day with Dave in the UK on this tour, and from what I was told when I spoke to them last week, he loves it. Loves touring. Keep saying it, I love touring. Okay, they're not doing the tours they did back in the 80s, which is, I think, the agreement they've come to. We can't do 9-10 month tours a year. If we're doing 4 or 5 months, that's fine, not a problem. But all this rubbish about he doesn't want to be there is absolute bullshit. He's loving it. He even said it last year. It's like, because they didn't tour for 2 years because of COVID, they all come back. It's all refreshed. It's like a new thing. They're all singing off the same hymn sheet is the best way to say it. They're all loving it. And he's actually said it in June. I'm loving it at the moment. Love being on the road at the moment. It's great.
Yeah. People do make up a lot of shit.
It's clickbait. It's easy to get people to look at a homepage where they talk bullshit.
Yeah, but I just don't know where they get this rubbish from. I know a few things might have been said a few years ago by certain people in and around the band, but to say that someone doesn't want to be there, and you can see it in all that, it's absolute crap. We all saw the shows. We all saw how every member of that band is on fire.
On fire.
I mean, you could be sure if they didn't want to be there, they didn't have to. They can just say, "Hey, I'm out." It's easy peasy.
I know. It just annoys me, But there you go. Get off your chest.
I mean, look, they are performing at such a high level. At such a high level. The only thing that's going to stop this band, and Rory, you and I have spoken about this, the only thing that's going to stop this band is geopolitics. Okay? It's things that are out of their control. The political situation, the global economy, war, that kind of stuff. That's the only thing that's going to stop them playing. I'll be honest, I haven't seen that much of a drop in intensity from 15 years ago, from 30 years ago. I really haven't. Look, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, they were obviously a little bit more rawer.
I also think there's more demand to see them now than there was 30 years ago.
Correct. I mean, yes, in 1985 there was a real edge to them, a real edge. They have that edge still, but it's a different sort of edge. It's a lot more refined, and man, they're firing on all cylinders. They really are firing on all cylinders.
Exactly. Yeah. You can tell by.
But the world also changed after the COVID thing, right? You see, every people going to the movie theaters more than ever. Every people go to concerts more than ever. It's bigger and bigger gigs. It's and it also for Maiden, so it's just cool to see a lot of people out there.
Yeah. Except in Western Canada, of course.
Okay. You've introduced it. Let's talk about this. What the hell is going on there? There are, for those that don't know, there are 3 shows in Canada. Look, I made a bit of a smart-ass comment about it earlier in the show, but there are 3 shows there, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. There are so many tickets available, much more than expected. Effectively, Vancouver is a market. The others probably B markets, but nevertheless, this is a summer in time themed tour, and Europe sold out. What is going on in Canada, gentlemen? Your thoughts? A penny for your thoughts.
With the exception of Power Trip, which I think Rasmus is going to, these are the only shows in North America this year. So if you live in North America and you want to see Maiden doing this tour, you have 3 options apart from Power Trip, and still that hasn't helped ticket sales, which is weird.
I don't know.
Do you think people are actually are holding out for an announcement for a full North American, South American tour next year before they?
I think that's the word. That's the word right now. Everybody's just talking.
But they're not going to announce that before they show, are they? So if you've got the chance, like Rory said, then go. Even if it's like a 2-hour drive down the road or whatever.
I get that Power Trip is very expensive, but for the same money you can fly to Canada and see them.
Fly to Canada and see it. Probably cheaper. And you can get full show, full production, the work.
Indoors.
Indoors. We've all seen it. We know what it's like. We can only just say to people, go. If you haven't seen it and you've got the chance, go.
That's great too.
I think what the people in Western Canada probably don't realise is I'm wondering whether they're expecting a full-scale Canadian tour next year. The reality is, if they've played Western Canada now, they ain't coming back in 2024. 2024 is probably going to be Montreal, Toronto, Quebec City. They ain't coming to Calgary, guys. They ain't coming to Edmonton again. They ain't coming to Vancouver next year. So I mean, I would be going to those shows. I really would.
I wonder how the promotion has been in Canada, in TV and posters and all that stuff. If people really realize that Maiden is coming.
I don't know. I don't think anybody's got an answer. Look, a part of me thought, is it the cost of living? Is it, rising sort of prices? People maybe can't afford it. But, I mean, Europe was sold out. Europe was sold out. The rising cost of living is the same all over the world. And every European show just about was just packed to the rafters.
I should say, actually, I've never seen demand for Maiden tickets like I saw on this previous tour, this most recent tour. That, like, for example, the German shows, people were begging for tickets. Yeah. It was crazy. When I was going into, I think it was Frankfurt, I never saw so many people standing outside with signs saying I need a ticket. I even saw some people I know who are from the fan club or whatever, guys who I would have expected to have a ticket already were like, I just can't get in. And I've never seen, there must have been over 100 people waiting outside the venue looking for tickets in Frankfurt.
So what did we have? Was it 2 or 3 gigs that didn't sell out on the European tour? It was not that many.
Don't know.
It was 2 in Spain, I think, and that's what I remember.
and even those were heavily attended.
Oh yeah.
Despite not being sold out. So
Yeah.
look, I don't know. I don't know what's happening in Canada. Again, we can theorise about it, whether they're waiting for 2024 dates, but that's not going to help you guys. They're coming to your part of the country now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they ain't coming in 2024. I don't think they will anyway. Or is it the cost of living? But hey, that didn't impact the Europeans. But anyway, we shall see. We shall see. But no, I mean, I had a look at the ticket map the other day for all three venues, and there's some fantastic seats available still. Really good seats.
Yeah.
I'd also like to know what kind of buzz there is.
Australia and Canada is very close, right?
No, 16 hours flight from. No,
Like I said, very close.
Very close, exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I've found a couple of work conferences in Calgary and Edmonton that just so happen to be on those days of the show. So yes, I may do a conference on sports medicine and go to the show that night. We'll see, but it's on the cards. So I'll interview a few people outside the venues and ask them why they're not.
It will only be a few because they didn't sell any tickets up there.
Yeah. You'll be first to the barrier on your own, mate.
Well, there you go. I don't have to line up. You
don't have to argue with anybody online about it.
No, and I don't have to line up at 5 a.m. Like the rest.
That was amazing on this tour.
Don't touch it. Don't.
Some of those first to the barrier fans.
No, we're not.
Don't mention first to the barrier. Don't.
They were so early in every place I went. It was like in the morning they were queuing up outside. I was really impressed.
Just completely defeats the object of first to the barrier, and these people cannot see it. It's literally laughable. I've given up with it. You're told to be there at a certain time, so you walk first to the barrier, and they get there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you think, what the hell are you doing? You're defeating the object of it. It's designed so you get there first before everybody else, not queue up at 2 in the morning. Anyone can do that.
Look, with great respect.
But there's first to the barrier, and then there's first to the barrier, right?
Look, with the utmost respect to our friends that like the barrier, I mean, in Finland, I turned up fairly late, and I was 4 or 5 people away from the front, and I saw a wonderful show.
Right. Can we move on?
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I think
we haven't talked about the merch yet, have we?
Oh, the merch.
Merch.
What
Merch.
do we all think about the way Eddie was depicted? Because some people say it's cartoonish and a bit goofy.
I can understand what they say, but it is what it is. Don't like it, don't buy it.
What it is.
Look,
They have such a big line now of stuff. If you don't like this artist or this one, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, but it's
Rasmus,
like I
what
just
do you
said,
think
it's that
of-
old thing. If you don't like something, you don't buy it.
Exactly.
Well, Rasmus, what do you think of the new Where Eagles Dare shirt?
Sorry again?
Do you like the new Where Eagles Dare shirt?
No.
No, so you're not going to buy
But
it.
I'm not a fan of the
You're
artist.
not moaning about it like everybody else does.
No, I think it's fine for the people who like that kind of art. And I know a lot of Metallica fans is very fond of him, and so it's cool to have a different line. It doesn't always have to be Derek Riggs or Herf. I think it's cool they're mixing it around.
look, I thought some of the I thought the Eddie for the event shirts was a bit goofy, but then again, as a Derek Riggs, even though I'm wearing one, but as a Derek Riggs sort of fan, you had the classic Riggs designs anyway. You had a remake of the '86 European shirt, albeit in camouflage green, and you also had that fantastic shirt with a Stranger of Strangeland Eddie in front of the space car. I mean, there you go. Yeah, you had Canard Papers. So there was something for everyone. For everyone. And, if you didn't like the more cartoonish sort of toyish, goofy Eddie, you had the rig stuff. If you don't want the rig stuff, you had that other stuff.
Yeah.
Then there was the Alexander the Great and Hell on Earth design, which is again altogether different. So I think they did cater to everyone, which was great.
Yeah, and I think we got the event shirt spot on, didn't we? Where they were going to do the event shirt.
Yes, we did.
I was told Spain as well, and they didn't do it.
No, they didn't do Spain.
The rumor, the thing about Spain was Herf actually didn't have enough time to finish the artwork. He actually did one. So it was not done in time for the printers, so that's why we missed out on Spain.
Okay, yeah, because
so
I
it
was
wasn't
told by a reliable source that Spain was definitely on the list, and then it didn't appear. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, we hope that they still would do it for the last couple of Spain gigs, but they didn't. They just took it out.
Yeah. I wonder.
Do you think we'll get a Canadian?
That's what I was going to say. Well,
I think so. And we might even have seen the artwork already, but we don't know.
There should be a US one though. Like they're always going to do a US adventure, even if it's only for one show. Surely.
But you have to think that Power Trip is a league of their own, and they have their own T-shirts. So I don't know. I hope Maiden will do one.
I think if they do a US shirt, it will be when they play a full USA
next year.
Not a one-off yet. Yeah, they might do a one-off shirt for Power Trip, but not just generic to that event. Not a US tour shirt, if you know what I mean. I think that'll come next year when they do North America, like we all hoping they will do. But I thought the merch this tour was great. I know people are having issues with t-shirt ink shirts and whether they're a lot of the ones sold at the shows for t-shirt ink. I think most of them, and the ones bought from the shop were Gildan, but saying that, I've got the German one on that I bought from the shop and have t-shirt ink, and it's fine.
Oh, are we clashing? Are you both wearing the German shirt?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Well, are you a couple?
You better strip off and topless and
we need to coordinate next time. Never let this happen again.
Okay.
Look, if it's any consolation, you're both sort of the cut-off on the screen.
Really?
So, there you go. Now we can see you. Look, I love the concept of the Nordic shirt is, and I think the German one, I could be wrong, is Eddie selling merch. I just think that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's great.
Isn't that on the Hellfest one as well?
I believe it is. Yeah, I believe it is. I actually regret not buying the Nordic shirt for myself. I bought one for you, Raz, but I forgot. Regret not buying. Again, the Eddie I didn't like.
Remember, we were laughing about the Danish flag on the backside of the shirt. Late Denmark, so that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Look, it was a fun tour. It was a fun set list. The merch was great. The fans were happy. The atmosphere was great. One of the most enjoyable. What's that?
I don't know. He's got his Future Past.
In Spain.
Spain.
So lucky because the Estrella Brewing Company was in one of the towns that did special Maiden cups for the gig.
Wow.
That was nice.
Fantastic.
I thought going back to the merch, I thought the Scotland one was really good as well. Doing it as a parody of Iron Brew.
The Iron Brew.
I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, I got one.
They did that some years ago, so it was cool they did it again. And of course, they ended up selling the orange T-shirt.
Wow.
Yeah.
One thing I did
really, really, really good.
One thing I did notice in Europe and the UK was there weren't many promo posters on the walls in the streets at all.
They never do, yeah.
Well, Legacy of the Beast, you could. You could, I mean...
I don't remember them.
In Athens, Greece,
In
I was ripping... In Athens, I was ripping posters off walls.
Spain. There was a lot in Spain.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess the places where they need to sell tickets, you don't need posters if the shows are sold out already.
That's
true.
That's very true.
We had that issue.
So
Athens last year.
So one would think Canada should have a lot of posters.
More posters than people.
Now I have to go and buy a poster.
Now Rasmus is going to ask you, Cass, to get one.
I will. Well, it looks like there's going to be so many. I can
Yeah.
just take them off the wall and roll them up and ship them straight over.
I think, like you were saying, the general consensus on all the shows that we went to, whether it be UK or Europe, the atmosphere was just electric and great. We witnessed it, Kaz, after the show at least, didn't we? We went in the pub afterwards.
Yeah.
And within 5 minutes of the show finishing, or 10 minutes, that pub was rammed and they wouldn't let anybody else in. It was so busy, and it was full of Maiden fans just sitting there chatting and having a drink and having a laugh together.
In
We
Leeds.
were in there for an hour or so, weren't we?
Yeah, it was you, me, and your son Connor. We were just hanging out.
Yeah,
we were just talking.
and chatting with people we hadn't seen in a while, and it was just a general great. And I witnessed it before the show. I was in another pub in Leeds before the show called the Dry Dock, and it was just full of Maiden fans playing. They had Maiden playing over the PA all afternoon, and the atmosphere was great. It was brilliant, and
totally agree.
Yeah, it's super.
Totally.
In Dublin, I put up on the forum, there was a pub near the venue in Dublin where I like to go when I'm working there, and I invited, fan club members to come in. I thought maybe 10 people would come or whatever. There must have been 50 or 60 people. And a couple of days later, I was speaking to the owner, and he said, "I wish Iron Maiden were playing here every weekend."
Yeah.
I think everybody I met on the tour, you at Leeds or the London shows, people that come over from America and from Europe and all that lot, it was such a great. It was that kind of camaraderie. You're all one family. You're all fans. You're here for the same thing. Everybody was just so accommodating and really, really nice. So just everybody I met, thank you.
Yep.
And it was great to meet people and chat with people and just generally be around a nice atmosphere and witness it. Great.
And one thing I noticed as well, which I do like to go to pubs occasionally after gigs, and often you would see a band member in a pub having a pint. And I noticed that quite a bit on this tour, and what was really noticed was how respectful people were towards them. Like in Munich, Steve Harris came to this Irish pub we were in. I've never seen Steve in a pub before, and he was just left alone. He wanted to have a pint after the gig. People kind of nodded towards him when he came in, but nobody mobbed him, which is, I think, good to see as well.
And Rory,
same with Yannick, he was left alone.
And Rory, that's what it was like back in the 80s. People actually gave them that space back then. If you saw them in a pub, or Loopy will tell all those stories. When they used to go drinking, sort of before or after a show, the fans would actually give them that space, just leave them alone. And even as the first time I saw them, first time I met them, over 30, like Fear of the Dark tour, we saw them having dinner. We just left them alone.
But Steve has also been clever this time, doing a lot of British line gigs before the Maiden gig,
correct.
A good opportunity for the fans who wanted to meet him or get a picture with him or a signature. So that was quite clever, doing the British line gigs before a Maiden gig.
But you were telling me, Kaz, you were staying in the same hotel in Leeds as Nico and Yannick, and you went out for breakfast and they were there. And
they
a little sort of nod, hello, and that was it.
Yeah, they were staying in a really, look, I won't name the hotel obviously, but it was a really small boutique hotel in this side street in Leeds. You would never think that they'd be staying there because people are used to seeing them stay at big, international franchises, and they were in this tiny little boutique hotel. I walked in to have breakfast, and I see Nico, I see Shaki, I see the whole entourage there, and they kind of saw me and thought they'd seen a ghost because they would have booked. I'm sure they would have booked that hotel thinking no fan is going to stay here. But they didn't count on an Australian staying somewhere where there's a cafe that sells good Australian coffee, so next door. So yeah, it was. But you just nod at them, you smile, and you go and have your breakfast, and you leave them alone.
Yeah.
And your Iron Maiden t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
pajamas.
Well, they were sort of looking over, and I just let them have their time, and I had my breakfast. I finished my breakfast, and I left. I think Yannick was complaining to one of the girls there about his cup of tea being cold. So Rory, you might want to remind me about that cold cup of tea.
Something actually I noticed in one of the pubs, which I thought was really cool, was they wanted to get Yannick and Steve to come behind the bar to take a photograph of them pouring a pint, And usually, I've seen this before. I remember seeing it in Moscow, and they go to Yannick and, come on, can we get a photograph? The guys actually went to Yannick's daughter and said, would you be able to ask your dad if he wants to take a photo? And I thought it was really respectful that they didn't just mob him. They asked his daughter, can you ask him if he wants? And they got a great photograph, which I'm sure is going to be on the wall right now. But that might remind me of something. How close we came to not having the last show of the tour, to Wacken not happening. Like, that was, I think Maiden weren't playing Wacken at one stage. I think it was pretty much last minute that show actually got to go ahead to happen because of the weather up there. So
everybody didn't know what was going to happen. Are they playing? Are they not playing?
Yeah.
Will they let any fans in?
Yeah, because we didn't get the live stream either, did we?
Well, we got this awesome footage from 2008 from somewhere back in the time tour.
Yeah, we got the 3 other ones that they did at Wacken, didn't we? But
pretty good close-shot footage.
It was nice to have had a live stream as well, but that's down to the people at Wacken, But it
was actually not
about that online, didn't we?
Probably Maiden's decision, no?
The rumor backstage was actually Wacken wanted to do it, but it was Iron Maiden that said it's not going to happen.
And that would suggest to me that maybe there is a chance of a live DVD. That if you have a professional pro shot, show on YouTube, it's going to impact your DVD sales. But if you suppress that, then maybe they are actually thinking about a live DVD.
Do we think though that it was actually filmed and they'll use that for the DVD?
I hope not.
Why not?
Why not?
But rather an inside show.
An inside show.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the cool thing was, if they do it, we get those drones that we have never seen before.
That was brilliant.
That was like, that was jaw-dropping. I was like, well, I saw it with some of the other bands, and we were like, I hope they do it with Iron Maiden, and they did. So I was really, really happy to see that.
Did you manage to nick one of those drones, Rasmus, for your boating?
No.
If you guys
imagine you running down the road trying to chase one. Yeah.
If you guys Kaz disappeared, is he?
No,
if you guys could pick one highlight from the shows that you saw, like one moment that was the best bit of the summer for you, what would it be?
That's tough. That's really tough.
At the show, I would say I should toss up between Alexander the Great and Hell on Earth. But personally, for me, when I found out the set list and they were playing the Time Machine as well, I really wanted them to play that on that album. I would have liked the Parchment as well, but we got Death on the Celts, which I said they'd play. And I thought they wouldn't play them all, but if you toss up between Alexander the Great and Hell on Earth for me, I can't split the two. And then I'm going to say the intro as well.
Yeah, it's a hard question, Rory. It's a really tough question, this one, because there's just so many, and it's hard to pick them apart. I mean, when I think about it, though, the thing that really sticks in my mind is Prague Night 1, watching the focus and emotion on Adrian's face when he was playing the intro to Alexander the Great. I mean, he was somewhere else when he was playing that. It was that really stuck with me. Amongst other things, Hell on Earth was just one of those moments where I just thought, wow. And the other moment was actually in the hotel that I was staying at in Finland, in Tampere. The restaurant had an Iron Maiden banquet, and I went in there and I said, "Hi, I want to have a banquet. I'll pay money. I'll have this banquet." It ended up being reindeer steak the whole time. So that was things like that, kind of enhanced my experience of the tour. But yeah, that's it for me.
We've lost you.
Lost me.
Yeah, something with the sound.
Something with the sound then.
No, I'll say it again. Well, where did you lose me at?
We got most of that at the banquet in your state.
Must have been the reindeers. Yeah, look, it was great, and they were the main sort of highlights for me. The other thing that sticks out of my mind is Heaven Can Wait. and the backdrop comes out, and there's on the side screen there's rain falling on that futuristic.
Roy said one thing. You are
I'm sorry.
Okay, Rasmus. One thing, Rasmus.
And I keep it easy. It was sure for me. It was they played Alexander the Great. Lots of rumors that they would do it, but they actually did it. For me, that was just mind blowing. Really, really cool. What about you?
I think for me it was the solo for Stranger in Strangeland.
Oh yeah.
I think. Like the first night in Ljubljana, everything was just crazy. Like to see, when the lights went down, to have the start of Quite Somewhere in Time, to have Alexander the Great. But I just think Stranger in Strangeland is my favourite solo from Adrian, and this was a very Adrian Smith tour, I think, Like you mentioned already that Alexander the Great is his song,
Correct.
but his fingerprints were all over this tour, But I just think that his highlight is that solo, and when the lights, just crazy, the slow solo, and then it explodes into the kind of faster solo. It's perfect.
Correct. Actually, Rory, he used a tremolo bar to actually sort of progress higher up on the keyboard at one stage. I'd never seen him play that solo before like that.
He played a lot of his solos differently, but I think he improved them as well. I think like the solo for Alexander the Great.
No, you've gone, Rory.
No, you've gone, Rory.
He's frozen up.
He's frozen.
Little leprechaun's got in his system.
We really.
Can you see me now? Okay.
No,
we can hear you now.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right, Rory, take it from his solo in Alexander the Great.
Yeah, well, his solo in Alexander the Great was amazing because he improved it over the years. He enhanced it, and yeah, that was one of the highlights. But for me, it just has to be Stranger in Strangeland. But yeah, it was his tour, I think. But you mentioned as well, every band member played their part amazingly. Like there was everyone got man of the match, for using a football analogy. And they played plenty of matches on this tour, and they won a few as well.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think of the Eddies?
Ooh, they were great. They were fantastic. I loved them. I don't really understand the purpose of the Stranger in a Strangeland Eddie. He came on, he leant on a wall, and then he walked off.
Like being in a bar. And
is that what?
Come back for heaven, come wait. That's what it was.
I don't think he was so good looking. I think there was something wrong with his neck.
He bit on his neck, didn't they? Yeah.
But
the only one that disappointed me was the Big Eddie.
Yeah, me too. It's great looking, but it's too artish. I think it's too nice looking.
Yeah. Well, after the demonic one from Legacy of the Beast tour, yeah.
I hated that. I hated that one. Couldn't stand it.
I don't know if it was great, but I just thought this lacked a little bit of something.
I really wanted that show they did in 86, 87. I wanted Nico up there and those hands.
Yeah, I think
it was so
that.
cool.
But I wanted it to be the general poster, the half Senjutsu Eddie, half Somewhere in Time Eddie, that.
Yeah.
And we did get it. Okay, fine. But
something
else
was
a bit of a letdown for me. But
something else which was notable as well was Bruce's lack of costume changes. That's become a big kind of thing for him at Maiden shows, is to have 5 or 6 different costumes. This time there was none of that. And there was also no flag for the Trooper, which I'm not sure what the reason for that was, but
yeah.
Like that's one of the most iconic scenes in Maiden is Bruce with the flag during the Trooper. Don't show any of my Irish friends this, but I have a little Union Jack Maiden shot glass as well. Don't tell anyone.
I'll tell you the most awkward part of the tour. The awkward thing I saw was that infamous event in Prague where Bruce goes up to Steve, puts that plastic helmet on, and Steve never takes his hand off the bass or the right hand. That just, I think 15,000 people just had a cringe moment there, and I just, it wasn't very good. So,
also, the first night of the tour,
really, it's a Bruce thing. He likes to goof around, right?
But it's not
Steve
a Harris thing. But it's not a Steve thing. That's the problem.
Oh, but people were like, "Oh, the band is over, and now he's kicking Bruce out of the band." And I was like, "Come on, they can joke around. Sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't." I don't think they were speaking more about that.
Yeah, I think you'll find that situation will never happen again.
That's a mistake Bruce will make once.
What was it someone threw on the stage? An agent put it on his guitar. What was that?
Was it a fish?
No, someone threw something on the stage, didn't they? An agent put it on the end of his guitar. Was it a horse's head or something?
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah, rubber horse's head.
Rubber, yeah, and then threw it back to the person. I thought that was quite good. But, yeah.
They looked like they were.
Also, the thing with Bruce doing, he took Nico's big drumstick and it broke.
Oh, broke, yeah, for the
Yeah.
gong.
Oh, the gong.
Not the gong.
The gong.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what from the first show I saw in Prague to the last show I saw in Amsterdam, Bruce's little talk about the DeLorean and before it actually became noticeably shorter because it was quite long-winded in the early stages of the tour, quite just long-winded. By Amsterdam, he just sort of managed to condense it quite nicely, and then went to call.
And he spoke before nearly every song, not nearly every song, but like last couple of tours, Bruce would have 2 speeches, maybe. This time there was a bit of delay between, and I wonder is that something for Nico, just to give Nico a couple of minutes
Possibly
between each song, just to kind of get himself ready or just take a break.
It's a good pickup. It's a very good suggestion. Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, probably.
So looking ahead, there's speculation abound. What do we think 2024 will hold?
Right, I'm going North America, South America, Japan, Australia. Might be a few select European festivals. I think that's it for that tour. I don't think it's going to go into a third year. I think 25 is going to be now for something completely different. I think it's a 2-year tour, and like I said, those markets next year. So Japan, Australia, North America, South America, we might get the odd European one, but I'm not hopeful on that. But that's what I think it would be. Yeah.
Rasmus?
Well, I heard a rumor that some singer from a famous band wants to tour in quite early next year. So I'm sure Maiden are not touring at that point. So, but yeah, like Paul said,
solo tour as well.
Yeah. But again, of course, they can mix it up like Steve did with Bruce Line. So he do a gig before the main gig. That's an option too. But yes, of course, I think South America is going to happen in 2024, and hopefully it's time for them to go to Australia, New Zealand, Japan.
I think they will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rory?
Yeah.
I think Rasmus is correct about a singer touring early next year. I've also heard that Bruce will be doing a solo tour, and I think his album is completed. At least that's what I've read on the forum, that he was working with Roy Z in LA last year. Maiden will tour. They will play the US for sure. They'll play South America for sure. I'm not as confident as Paul is about Oceania or about Asia happening, just because of logistics, economic reasons, as you mentioned earlier, geopolitical reasons. I do think there will be a small run of European shows. I think they'll do Download in the UK. We haven't mentioned it, but Bruce said at every European show nearly, we will see you very soon. And people can say, oh yeah, Bruce says a lot of things, but what we discovered last year when Bruce was saying see you somewhere on tour is that he generally means something when he's dropping hints on stage. I think they're going to play New York, which is great because my girlfriend said she would come, which is unheard of. So she'll actually come to a Maiden show, which is crazy. But yeah, I think there will be some European shows because of Bruce's kind of hints, not so subtle hints on stage.
Not to ruin your plans, Rory, but she said she would come with you to New York, not to the
She'll go shopping when I go to the gig, yeah, I know.
Look, I think it'll be pretty much exactly what they did in 2019. I think there'll be a fairly extensive US tour of the A markets. They'll do Eastern Canada. They'll do South America. Australia, yeah, look, I'd love to see them. I think the cost of touring here in at this time now, I think it's a bit too high. And the only time Australia would really work is in February, because don't forget, we've got the Australian Open tennis here. So the venue that they always like to play here in Melbourne particularly, and that'll be a 2-night thing, that venue won't be available until very late January, early February. But will that then interfere with Bruce's touring plans and Steve's plans for the Monsters of Rock British Lion thing? I don't know. I think the logistics and the cost is probably not going to... Look, they want to come, but whether it's cost effective for them, and they really do tour.
I think they will.
I hope you're right. Yeah.
But let's say Bruce does the same that Steve has been doing and say, now it's my turn to to warm up for the Maiden gig with my solo thing.
I hope so. Look,
hey,
I hope so.
The fans will love it. So
I hope so.
And also, throwing another spanner in the works, what about Smith Kotzen?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know that they've been in the studio at the beginning of this year in America. Before Adrian came back to the UK, so I know they've done new stuff. Whether it's recorded, I'm not sure, but I know they were doing new stuff in the studio in America. So there's also that as well. If there's any downtime next year, will Adrian go back and do a few shows on that kind of stuff as well?
Yep.
So,
And also things like Australia. It's like we discussed earlier with Nico, that would have reminded them that, time is finite, that they can't tour forever. If they want to play Australia, do it now, because you might not be doing it in 5 years.
Exactly.
I honestly think that they will be in Australia, and I think they'll do Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane,
and Adelaide. So
yeah,
Melbourne,
Wollongong as well, yeah.
Wollongong. Melbourne will look.
But it will fit very well together with them touring Japan, right?
I think they'll do Australia and then up to Japan and then across to Americas.
If they're in Japan, if they call Japan, then I'm supremely confident they'll come down here, because it's the same time zone. It's a 9-hour flight. It's not difficult. Okay.
I think they will, honestly.
Yeah, I hope so. We haven't seen them here in 7 years. I hope so.
I will call Steve right after this and tell him.
Yeah, please do. I think.
Hopefully Steve will watch this.
Look. The Summer in Time album was enormous here. It was huge back in 86, 87. And I think this tour will be embraced like no other. And yeah, I think Melbourne, Sydney will almost guaranteed to get double nights, 2 nights for sure. Yeah. Again, whether the number crunchers, the accountants say it's worthwhile logistically, that's probably, that's up to them. But let's hope so. Look, we'll find out. I get a feeling all these answers will become a lot more apparent in about 6 weeks' time from now.
Yeah. Once
Power Trip's done, Power Trip's done, I think we will get all our answers, and then we can all come back here and do another episode about whether we got those predictions right or wrong.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? I think we've.
I think everything, really, haven't we?
I think this has been a very extensive discourse on the future past.
We didn't discuss beer prices at the gigs, but
I don't drink.
We could do that next time.
Now you were in shock when I came to your house when I told you that I don't drink.
Of course. I've been buying trooper beers from all over the world for Cass's arriving, and then he comes and says he doesn't drink beer. What the fuck?
I know, he told me that in the pub in Leeds tonight. I had to buy him a pint of water or something.
Well, I said to him, no, I don't drink. Do you have maybe, something like soda water with elderflower? And I think he was going to throw me out of his house. But he was going to drive me back to the bus station and put me on the bus back to Copenhagen. But no, I don't drink.
So there is a demand for an Maiden soda.
Yeah, or alcohol-free beer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it's from Sweden now, right? The running free one.
Yeah.
So it is there.
I want someone.
So the moral of the story is that Kaz is the only sensible one out of the four of us.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of people that
I'm not stopped drinking.
I'm not sensible. I'm not sensible. If you see some of the money I've spent on collectibles, it's not being sensible at all. It's been quite stupid here. But all right, we'll do it again next time.
Yeah.
Such a great chat. Really enjoyed it, guys. Thanks again to the people who've supported us and made the effort to come up to us at various times on the tour. We thank you. And we will see you for the next one.
Sure. Great seeing you guys.
Okay.
See you again.
Bye.